pledge. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Welcome to the village board meeting of October 23rd, 2023. Roll call, please.
Possession?
Here.
Kraus?
Here.
Gardner?
Here.
Stacy?
Here.
Fury?
Here.
Giannotti?
Here.
In your board packet, you've got minutes of the last meeting of October 10th. Does anyone have any changes or deletions?
Just one minor one. The amount for the BYC fundraising could be over 3,000 and not 4,000.
Over 3,000?
Yeah.
Yeah. As opposed to over 4,000. All right, any other changes? Can we have a motion to approve the amended minutes?
So moved.
There's a motion on the floor. Is there a second?
Second?
There's a motion and a second. Roll call.
Giannotti?
Yes.
Fury?
Yes.
Stacy?
Yes.
Gardner?
Yes.
Kraus?
Yes.
Possession?
Yes.
Does anyone in the audience wish to address the board? If not, under my report, our first item is we are going to give the oath of office for the chaplains of our Beecher Police Department. And Chief Fleming, please.
Mayor and members of the village board, it's my honor and privilege to swear in our three chaplains. We have Pastor Mike Stein of Peace Church, Pastor Brian Denert of Faith Church, and retired Zion pastor Ron Rock. And I think a lot of family and friends are here as well. But our chaplains do a lot for the police department that you might not know about. Like a lot of people that we encounter are a little hesitant to talk to police officers because, you know, we got a gun and all that, but they'll talk to our chaplains freely. But they don't only minister to the village residents, they minister to our officers. You know, Ryan Drew's in the back there. I think he's ridden, Pastor Rock's ridden with them 4 times in the last couple of months, you know. We had an incident today, a very serious incident, and Pastor Stein came out and spent a long time with one of the people involved, and it really did a good job. It really helped the situation. I can recall a few months ago, Pastor Rock spent hours with a resident counseling this person. And it's my understanding that person has changed their life, not because of something I did. And I was hidden in the back because I didn't want her to see the police, but Pastor Rock was there, and that girl's on the road to recovery now. So they do things that we can't do. Brian's been out a number of times on situations and riding with the officers too. Pastor Stein is our newest chaplain, and we put him in service today for quite a long time. So if I could get the three of you to come up, you want to do it behind there, Bob?
Yeah, in front of the blueprints by the flag, yeah. Trustees know the drill.
Oh, no, this is their first time, Bob.
Well, that's true, you
They're
got your
first
side.
timers,
Yeah, I was
yeah.
gonna say scoot the
Ha
chair.
ha ha. And put your laptop down, Patty, if you can, or the flag. There we go.
Face me,
There's the photo on.
and raise your right hand. This is the oath of office of a police chaplain. I state your name.
I,
As a police chaplain in the Beecher Police Department,
as a police chaplain in the Beecher Police Department,
do solemnly swear or affirm
do solemnly swear or affirm
to uphold the Constitution of the United States,
to uphold the Constitution of the United States,
the Constitution of the State of Illinois,
the Constitution of the State of Illinois,
and the laws and ordinances of the Village of Beecher.
and the laws and ordinances of the Village of Beecher.
We're almost done. I will minister to the Beecher police officers
I will minister to the Beecher police officers
and those they come in contact with,
and those they come in contact with,
including those of other religious beliefs,
including those of other religious beliefs,
to the best of my abilities,
to the best of my abilities.
so help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations.
mind displaying those with the chief there? You never know what the press wants to do with these. Oh, no. Pastor, I'm gonna hold yours underneath. Pastor Rock, there you go, like that, there we go.
It's all yours.
It's all mine.
I gotta
Not like my servants. Oh, you didn't hear that, did you? Should we take off? Okay, no, thank you.
You guys are welcome to stay. Super exciting.
Yeah.
There,
Yes.
Pastor Mike Stein would like to say a quick prayer.
Sure.
All right, let us pray. Heavenly Father, I thank you for this time and for this privilege and honor to be a chaplain with these two brothers as we serve the village and the residents and the police force. I pray your blessings upon us as we do this duty. I pray your blessings upon the elected officials here of Beecher, that they may do your will and bring good order to our city. In the blessed name of your dear Son, Jesus, do I pray.
Amen.
Amen.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Run while you can. You have enough meetings in your life.
Yeah, that is for sure.
Stack them back up again.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you. Nice to meet you.
See ya.
Yeah. That's family and friends.
Yeah.
For sure.
Okay, also under my report, I know it's been a long time since we talked about this, but we had a gaming cafe that was interested in opening up last winter. I believe it was in March is when they first came to me. It's called Elsie's Place. They're still in the process. They finally got their lease taken care of, and they're in the process of build out right now. So they kind of gave us an idea of the menu, which this is the minimum that they would serve here. They will not have pizza, by the way, at the bottom, but they're looking at breakfast sandwiches, toasted bagel and cream cheese, stuffed bagels with sausage and cheese. They'll have appetizers, fried items, cold and hot items, deli sandwiches, beef sandwiches, that sort of thing, Chicago hot dogs. It's going to be a pretty thorough menu. They have a restaurant in Prospect Heights where they're not considered to be a gaming cafe, they're considered to actually be a restaurant because Prospect Heights does not allow gaming cafes. So they have qualified as a restaurant there, and they've been successful enough where Prospect Heights is letting them open a second location. So they're in the process, they're actually going to be at 1140 Dixie Highway. They were just starting to demolish the walls, etc. We got the final plans in, so as it goes, they're going to continue building. They're looking at probably 5 to 6 months before they're even close to opening. So everything's in place, liquor licenses, everything is just a matter of finishing the build out and getting everything complete. Later I'll request a quick executive session. But other than that, I have nothing more on my report. Finance and Administration Committee, Trustee Krause.
Thank you. Here a motion to pay payment of bills and payroll since the last meeting. So, Bob, is this number accurate? Because I know when I went through these, there was a change and then not a change for these bills.
There was a change, but it went back to the original amount. And Donna probably knows more about it than I do.
So
Sandy,
nothing else was added except,
no, it was changed back to the original.
Okay. So I'll make the motion in the amount of $291,934.13 for bills.
There's a motion on the floor. Is there a second?
Second?
There's a motion and a second. Discussion? Roll call?
Possession,
Yes.
Kraus,
Yes.
Gardner,
Yes.
Stacy,
Yes.
Terry,
Yes.
Giannotti,
Yes.
And then, motion the acceptance of the village audit report for the year ending April 30th, 2023. We have them here to discuss and present the audit.
Good evening.
Go ahead.
My name is Gail Garrissey. I'm partnered with First Grace Abraham Eshelman and Garrissey, and this is Jennifer Doss, a senior accountant with us, also a CPA. She was in charge on the field work and the drafting and everything else, and she ran the team, and so that's why I brought her, because she knows more than I do, because she was knee-deep in the Village Beecher for the last several weeks. So we appreciate the opportunity to serve as auditors, and it's, we're glad to be here, and we hope you're happy with our services. I'll hand it over to Jennifer, who's got a longer list than I do.
So in front of you, we each have a bound copy of this year's financial statements for the year ended April 30th, 2023. I'm gonna go through some of the highlights. There's several sections to this audit report. The first section that you'll find pages, up here. So right after the index, pages 1 through 3 is going to be our audit report, which we've issued an unmodified or clean opinion for the year ending April 30th, 2023. After that report, you will find an additional report this year required by the government auditing standards, and that is due to state grants received during the fiscal year. After that report, we get into the actual financial statements. So you'll first see a set of the basic financial statements, which I'll be discussing in a moment, and then our next section is the required supplementary information, which includes the budget to actual comparisons for the major funds and the pension-related information. The section after that will be the combining schedules for the non-major funds and some of the other supplemental schedules that's not required but included. And then the last section is the other information, and that is the schedule of assessed rates, extensions, and collections. So I'm going to go ahead and start on pages 6 through 8 are what we call, that's our statement of net position and our statement of activities. So these reports are reported on the full accrual basis of accounting. So that's going to be including your capital assets, your long-term debt, the deferred inflows and outflows that are pertaining to IMRF. Pages 7 and 8 then, the statement of activities, I'll talk about that one a little bit. If you want to look on page 8, the 5th line from the bottom, that's our overall change in net position. The governmental activities had an increase in, let's see, there's $741,760, and that's a little less than it was the prior year, about $75,000 less. Overall, the expenses were up slightly, a little more than the increase in revenue. So both expenses and revenues were up this fiscal year. And also, there was the payments that started on the splash pad loan, so I think that contributed a little bit as well to that increase in expenses. And then the business type activities, so for the water, sewer, and garbage, we had an increase of $466,762 from the prior year. So the expenses did increase slightly from the prior year, a little bit more again than the increase in the charges. So again, both the expenses and revenues increased. You also had received a little over $1.4 million for the Illinois EPA and the Rebuild Illinois grants as well. So then if we flip to page 9, this is going to be our balance sheet for the governmental funds. And this is on the modified accrual basis. So this one is focused on the current financial resources. We don't include the capital assets and the long-term liabilities on here. If you look at the general fund column, the third line from the bottom, the unassigned fund balance is $1,045,734. That's increased from the prior year, a little bit over $185,000, and so that remains a very healthy standpoint for reserves, from a reserve standpoint. Page 9. Then you'll also see that new on for this year is the Public Safety Facility Fund. That was a major fund this year, and that's holding the bond revenue for the new facility that's gonna be built. Then if we flip to page 11, that's gonna be our statement of revenue, expenditures, and changes in the fund balance for the governmental funds. And this is also on the modified accrual basis, so we're looking at our current resources. And again, the fifth line from the bottom is our net change in fund balance. So the general fund had a small decrease from the prior year, about $38,000. Last year we had the proceeds from the splash pad loan, so those weren't there this year, so that contributed to that change a little bit. However, if you look a few lines up, you will see that the excess of revenues over expenditures of $268,598, and that was an increase from the prior year of almost $300,000. So overall, that's looking good. And then the last page that I'll go over and highlight is page 14. So this is the statement of revenue, expenditures, and changes in fund, or net position for the proprietary funds. So these are the business type funds. Your operating revenues increased from the prior year by about $57,000. The operating expenditures also increased from the prior year by about $173,000. But the non-operating income and expense, so that would be like your tax and interest, remained pretty consistent from the prior year. Again, you'll see that the capital grants are listed there from the EPA and the Rebuild Illinois grant. And then overall, the change in net position of about 1.4 million, almost 1.5 million. So overall, the village is operating in a healthy financial position. So those were some of the highlights that I have from the statements that we did. I don't know if anybody had any questions on this portion. I know.
There's a lot in there.
I had a lot of questions, but I dealt with it over the phone with Jen.
Yeah, we talked through some things. And then the last part, I have a letter here that I'll be giving to the mayor, is just things that we came across that maybe we would suggest could be an opportunity to strengthen some internal controls. And everything that we had discussed last year was great this year. The staff really went with our suggestions and implemented some things and did a great job there. And so the only one that I would recommend this year is the outside accountant that comes in periodically and does some journal entries and things. She has a lot of records of the journal entries that she's doing, but they're not always housed in-house here. So when she comes in and makes those entries, if we could just get copies of those things to keep in-house, it just might make it a little easier as we're auditing to find the information that we need. So we talked about that, and that sounds like that's something that.
And that shouldn't happen again, because there shouldn't be any need to make journal entry changes, because the new counting system is now up to date and accurate. So hopefully that shouldn't have to happen again.
Great. So that's all I have.
And one question, you mentioned Gavin. Do I have to give you a password to get in, or can you just go in there and do it?
I can go in there and do it.
Ah, good. All right. Do I have to do the cognizant agency notification?
I'll check on that tomorrow and let you know.
Okay.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
So if no one has any questions, I'll make a motion to accept the audit, village's audit for the year ending April 30th, 2023.
There's a motion on the floor, is there a second?
Second?
There's a motion and a second, discussion, roll call.
Giannotti,
Yes.
Terry,
Yes.
Stacy,
Yes.
Gardner,
Yes.
Kraus,
Yes.
Possession.
Yes.
Thank you very much, and I'm sure they all look forward to working with you next year.
We look forward to it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And then discussion on the tax levy for 2023 collectible in 2024. There's a lot of information there, and you guys can read that. The bottom line is last year we increased our levy. My suggestion at this time as a financier would be to hold the line with the levy. not increase it, but this is a board decision, so anybody have any thoughts, comments, concerns?
So looking ahead, it's looking like we're not gonna need any extra.
I don't believe so. I just briefly looked at Bob's put out so far for 23-24. And as you saw, the auditors just said, what was our balance, like 1 million and change, like 47,000 or something like that. And I think that's the highest it's ever been in any general balance since I've been here in 6 years. So I don't see a need for it right now unless someone else sees a need for it.
It's hard to put the levy before the budget. We haven't even started the budget process yet. The only cost I do know that's going up significantly is the dispatch. That we're gonna have to cover somehow. But, you know,
And
it's
how much
60,
was raised last year by the levy going up, 31,000 or?
12, I think we only raised it, let's see, we went 4,
No, it was more than that.
Yeah, it probably was $6,700 a point, so,
Yeah, I think that's what's in
yeah. So we went up 4.95 last year. And I want to assume that this year they will allow up to 5.
Well, and this is something that doesn't have to be voted on tonight, correct?
Well,
Or it does now?
We
Okay.
have 2 meetings in November to approve the levy, then we gotta file it with the county in December. So I wouldn't wait too long.
So regardless, really, we're not gonna have the budget in,
Right.
No,
never
it's,
done.
it's like that every year, Ben, you gotta levy before you do a budget. And for 11 years, we did do 0.
yeah,
Even the lean years, you know, we did a 0 increase. And it's only 6,700 points, so I said 2 points would be good, but that would only still give you $13,400 in money.
I mean, well, we know we have a decent increase in this dispatching cost to account for. I don't think it's outrageous to try and do a couple percent to help offset that, since that is something that benefits all of the residents in town.
Do we have any idea what that increase is?
It's 24,000 this year, 42,000 the following year. Because we're using some reserves to offset the increase.
This year?
Yes. But as the chairman says, you know, you decide what you wanna do and we just have to make it work, you know?
I would agree with Ben as far as going with the 2%.
I would recommend that any increase you do though goes on the police protection levy. And we will make sure that that goes towards police protection.
So we can earmark it that way then?
It would be your money because you gotta spend it on police.
I'm on board with that.
Yeah. It is what we do it for you.
Does someone wanna make a motion, or?
Yeah, I'll go ahead. I'll make a motion to, I guess, pledge a 2% tax levy increase to police protection. Is that reasonable enough?
There's a motion on the floor, is there a second?
Second?
Joe Terry,
Give it to them.
discussion?
Yeah, I just wanna point, I understand what everyone's saying, but we've increased this levy for police, I think, what, 2 out of the last 3 years?
Last week, we had 2, and 4.95.
So the last 3 years, there's other departments that are gonna need funding that don't come from taxes, that we've had discussions in the past. Water cost, things like that. That, I don't know if they're gonna come out this budget, but they probably should. At least having another discussion on that. And if we raise taxes now, and then we need to raise fees, and I say need to raise fees, because I believe we're getting close to that. I mean, it's just something to consider. You're gonna raise a tax levy on the resident and then possibly have to go and raise fees too for water. I mean, you guys know the budget better than I do, but we've had more than one discussion about having to raise some fees too, so. I just wanna point that out. That's gonna be a discussion coming up. I'm sure this budget.
Yeah, you're probably looking at a sewer increase.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's, you know, I understand what everyone's saying and getting at, and yes, stuff's going up. But our funds are healthy, And I understand if we don't capture it now, we won't get it now, but we may be able to capture it next year. But this isn't the only increase that's on the table or on the horizon, so. I know we've had a discussion, call it fees, taxes, you know, whatever you wanna call it, you're raising the cost of living for the residents in this town. So, I just wanna put that out there.
Okay, any more discussion? Roll call?
Musician,
Yes.
Kraus,
No,
Gardner,
No.
Stacy,
No.
Thierry,
Yes.
Giannotti,
Yes.
President Meyer.
Yes.
now that means we have to have perfect attendance when we vote on the ordinance, or it's gonna go one way or the other, if someone's missing, just let me know.
that's all I have.
Alrighty. Public buildings and properties, parks and recreation, trustee Giannotti.
One item, pretty long. Discussion on the bids for the new police facility. Bids were opened on October 3rd, and since then, the architect has been meeting with lowest bidders to try to reduce the cost of bids by cutting some of the improvements in the building. Progress on this front will be presented today. We will then have a discussion on how to proceed and what options are for completing the new building. This is not going to be a fun process to take your ideal building and start chopping away contents. We have not yet touched square footage, and we will see where we are. This has been a very tedious process. We have $4 million in bonds. We can only afford up to $500,000 from the general fund, but still have to provide the furnishings. So, turn it over to Jim.
Good evening, trustees and President Meyer. You should have a copy of a letter from us, just updating you on progress of review of the bids. We have gone through and ascertained that the lowest bid in each category is indeed the lowest qualified bid. I guess that would be the first step to know. Even though we're not necessarily fond of those numbers, those are the lowest qualified bids. And as was just discussed, we know that we've exceeded the project budget overall. So the spreadsheet attached where I tried to outline for the board the budget that we had presented back in June and how the bids.
Do you have an extra one, Jim?
Oh, yes,
Give it to the chief, I don't think you got one.
I'm sorry. Thank you. And on the spreadsheet, you can see some of the variations that exist from that June budget to what was received, and basically the overage that is the result of that. In a way of trying to reconcile this, especially with some of the categories being pretty drastically over the target from June, we went back and started to analyze where some of those numbers did increase, and those are listed there in the next section. The size of the generator, stone, riprap stone in the base of the pond, and some low voltage systems that were not in that June 20 budget, just so you could see how that would compare. And again, even comparing against that, it's still over by 7%. And then below that, what I've done, because I think that there is quite a bit of an anomaly in the low voltage category, and we only received one number there. So I've started with the baseline of removing that bid package total from the overall total. And then right beneath that, you'll see that I've added back a more modest package number as a target for low voltage, because you have to have some of those systems obviously in the building. You can't just totally eliminate it. And then beneath that are some items that we've begun to look at with pulling the generator package out, but leaving provisions in the package for its ease of adding later, eliminating a section of the parking lot, and modifying the face of the retaining wall, that's the next category. We looked at a lesser build-out of the lockup area, given some changes in this state regarding how you hold prisoners, eliminating finishing of the community room space, working with the carpentry contractor, we identified some items that were suggested for value engineering that would not drastically change the project. The pond riprap cost for the stone, which could be either eliminated or completed in a different time. Even that said, it does not get us close to the overall target. You can see that there's still a gap. Now, we're still analyzing some areas to determine whether additional savings can be extracted without drastically changing what we have. But there's still a pretty big gap between what you described and what you read and what we're seeing. And going back to my letter, to try to get closer to what you described, the 4 to 4.5 range, that most likely will require looking at the square footage of the facility overall and targeting a reduction in the overall square footage that we're proposing to construct. With that,
Should we throw out our idea? What we think we need to do?
Well, yeah, I had a couple questions, because since when I sat through that meeting, when we were talking the electrical and everything, now, I know we had, which ended up being probably part of the reason why the electrical package went up dramatically, was being a facility for, sorry, I lost my words. Disaster facility, right? We were gonna try to get all the,
EOC.
yeah,
Emergency
the
Operations
EOC.
Center.
But, and I know that that's a lot of in-ground cable and wire and, you know, that we were talking about putting in the community room and all that, and there's a lot of added cost for that. Is that an option to pull? I mean, do you think we pull a decent amount off of this number from reducing our capacity to do that?
I think that would generate, I don't think that's gonna be enough
Nah,
to do
yeah.
the gap, but yeah, there would be
Start.
dollars there.
Cause I know we talked about, like, you know, there was a couple offices where it's like, well, we need more than one station, because at some point we're gonna have, you know, there'd be 2 people in that office, but, you know, starting to eliminate some of these data points and stuff like that, I mean, this, that low voltage number is just,
And
obvious-
again, it's only one number, so it's hard to
Exactly.
really
Yeah,
compare it, so, but, yeah, that loan would, that package would have to be rebid in any
Exactly.
respect.
yeah,
But yeah, that could be scrutinized, and we can go back through and look throughout the facility to see where those requirements could be backed off, if that's the direction.
yeah, I mean, I mean, at this point, I hate to knock that part of the idea, but it's like, I just don't see us at some point needing that kind of facility to be able to do that, per se, you know? I mean, I get it for the training and stuff like that, obviously, but, you know what, if we're running a training in there, we can run an extension cord off the wall and put a power strip so they can plug their computers in and stuff like that. I know it's not ideal, but, you know, putting data ports and outlets and stuff in the floor
It's
is
expensive.
very expensive. And it's, you know, is it a nice want? Yeah, but is it a necessity to have? We haven't used, how many times we used the EOC here, Bob?
Once for exercise,
For training.
at least since 2014.
And before that, did we ever have an EOC?
We did for the heat wave in '95.
Was it a certified EOC though?
No. It's the old village board room in Penfield Street.
So, I mean, it's not like the facility wouldn't be able to do something like that though.
Yeah.
We'd be able to have a conditioned space, but we don't need to have it where, you know, we're able to run a full command center on lockdown and have, you know, it's an unfortunate cost to give up, but it's more of a want at this point than a need. That was just something that I had seen.
We definitely could double back and get a value placed to that.
Yeah.
our other idea was to lop off one of the sally ports and the detention area right down, which would be the west quarter of the building. And go with a holding facility that's just a bench to temporarily hold a subject, because with the new catch and release policies we have in the state of Illinois, we're not holding people anyway.
And we would put the infrastructure in for cells, you know, the plumbing and electric, build it into the building.
Well, we're
anyway.
actually talking about dropping square footage now.
Right, even then, Bob, we would still put the infrastructure in, because if Will County, like Lake County just did, Lake County, Illinois just did it, the sheriff said, we're not gonna house the people overnight, you have to house them. In case that happens, we'd be able to put a cell in there.
So rough in and not furnish is what you're saying?
Just rough, just have the, yeah.
Well,
Put
we
the
may
rough
not
in.
have the square footage to do that, because we gotta cut this building significantly. And this is the heart of the building here. This is where all the operations occur. So the only cuts you can make are to the Sally Port and detention area or the community room and fitness area. I mean, seriously, this is where 24/7 the operation is occurring.
I also think we need to stop talking fitness area.
Well, that's what it says here.
I know that, but I mean,
It's
at
gonna
this
be a
point, I think
storage
we've
room at
all
this
agreed
point.
that, yeah, it's probably gonna be a
Right.
storage room.
But to take this wall right here and cut one of these sally ports off, you'd still have a sally port and an impound, which could be used as a sally port. I guess you could put the plumbing and stuff in if you ever had to put this addition back on later, you know. Not moving the building, leaving the building exactly where it is, but lopping that piece of it off. You know, we gotta get the price of this thing down. We can use one sally port and the holding cells. So basically this part right here. You'd still have booking, a interview room, a bathroom, and a bonding out room. But you would not have cells,
How many cells are in there?
3. Because now the rule says male, female, juvenile. And we don't hold people. I mean, when was the last time we held someone? It was for under investigation.
January will be 2.5 years I've been here, we held one person, because we had a 14-year-old runaway, and her uncle was harboring her in town. And we'd wait till they got their warrant, we had to keep them overnight. So everybody we get that the Safety Act doesn't protect goes right to jail. But with the Safety Act, almost everybody, even now low-level possession of controlled substance arrests are bonded on the street right now. So even more than ever, you're gonna have less people. So if we did have to house somebody, we would have to put somebody with them in our processing room, we call it processing room. And I talked to the Department of Corrections, a person that handles lockups. And I asked him, you know, do we have to have a lockup in the building? And he said that we do not. He said as long as it's not a detention area, it's beyond their purview. But he did recommend that we did put the infrastructure in. And I think, maybe talking to Jim, we possibly could still do that, even lop it off, Bob. I looked at the plans, I think we might be able to.
We
fit
can
in.
tighten things up, I think, a little bit along there. If we are lobbing something off, we can still, you know, perhaps get, you know, maybe one or two future setups in there. There's a certain square footage that once you do that, you have to adhere to, then it becomes a Department of Correction jurisdiction.
Right.
And as soon as you put somebody behind a door and close it, even for a short period of time, they consider that being a cell grade type room. That's, you know, we tried traditionally our design to not even get into that.
Someone behind the door, we would cuff them to a bench. Maybe have a TV mounted on the wall, they can watch TV, and we would have to babysit them.
And there's nothing wrong with that, he said,
Yeah.
that's not a violation.
And then, Jim, does that reduce so there was that HVAC that we had to add to that, so if it becomes a non-detention area, it becomes a holding area or processing area at that point, do we get to lose that
That
extra?
specialized system would disappear.
That goes away,
Right.
and that reduces the HVAC costs.
And the dollar per square foot that we'd be saving, extra dollars per square foot,
Oh,
would be
yeah.
a lot higher on the west end of that building than it would be on the east end of that building.
I'd be willing to bet the overage on the HVAC is be because of that system.
You're right.
That's where that overage came from, is that detention system.
So do we have any idea what that does to the price then?
Well, that would be, I guess, just in a general sense, it's about, what you described, Bob, is about 1,000 square feet, I think we said it could come off, maybe a little more. So it's probably 9 to 10% of the area. 9%, I think.
But it's the costliest, 1,000 square feet. So it's that,
Don't count the site package. It would, I guess, you're right, but like in a general sense, it could be roughly at like 9% of the remaining total.
the bottom line is, we have a $4 million budget for the building. If we have to use cash reserves out of the general fund, that should go toward the furnishings, because it makes no sense to build a building and not have any furnishings. So if you pledge $500,000 out of general to finish off the building, then the actual bids that we have to come in at 4 million or below.
That includes site work?
Yeah,
Okay, so you gotta back about $1 million out of that for site work. To be honest with you,
That
you're down to
hasn't
about.
changed, right? Nothing we've talked about would change site work, other than what we said, like.
unless we rebid it in January
Well, that I think
and
we're
get some more
destined
people
for.
interested in the site work, because I tell you, 1.1 million for site work, that's robbery.
Do we have to revisit the dry pond?
You could, it would require a redesign and relocation of the building, because we'll need more space, but yes.
Just asking, is it a reasonable thing to reconsider at this point?
God bless you. We haven't analyzed the cost of that yet.
Okay.
Or does the reworking of it eat up any money you save?
No, that's the question, I don't know, is it gonna cost more to rework it than it is to?
I guess what are our next, like, what are our choices here to go forward? I mean, obviously, we can't afford this. I mean, it's $6 million, we're looking at a $6 million project and a $4 million bond. That just, I mean, that ain't happening. So I guess, like, what's our choices going forward? Chop it, eliminate, like, what do we need to decide?
You need to chop the west end of that building off.
But we don't know if that's gonna be enough.
Then we go after the community hall. We need a police station, then the community room is probably something on the floor.
So if we say, let's say the board says today, eliminate that west end, we rebid and it comes in and it's still 800,000 over. And that doesn't include 500,000 furnishing, which is
Yeah.
$1.3 million over.
We'll have to cut the side,
I mean, then we.
cut the east side of the building then.
That's what I'm, like, then we come back and cut, that's the east side then?
Or
That's
cut
what
both,
I'm asking,
or cut all of it now. I don't know what to tell you, I mean,
Yeah, I wanted to present it, and I think that, again, I'm not asking you to take any action tonight. I wanted to get this analysis in front of you. I think that by our next meeting, I could probably make that recommendation to you as far as what that next step should be, or should be considered by the board. And we'll analyze, because we just really talked about this notion of pulling the one bank of the Sally Port out, reshaping the lockup area. That is gonna have a big impact mechanically and some of the other things. We could look at the EOC piece, and then come back with you, and based on this data, make that projection of where we think it would be. And then we could also say, at that time, if we have to do something more, what that might be for you to consider. I don't think it would be fair to ask you to say this is what you should pursue tonight.
we designed a building to meet the needs assessment that we did for 20 years out. It's obvious that we don't have the money to do that, so we need to build a building that serves the needs today, and we're just gonna have to live with it. I don't know what else to say. I think 2 years ago, the bids would have been more competitive. Right now, it's a bad market,
It has not receded the way we would have hoped.
Another question, Jim, overall, and this is just an observation on my end, it seems like some people pulled and didn't submit, and some of the submissions were very low on how many bidders we actually had in the bid process. Do you think it was just the timing on it, or?
It could be, it's hard to say, like, some categories had a really good turnout, really
Yeah.
strong result, and some did not.
Yeah.
And that's, like, to say you're only gonna get one low voltage bid on a brand new building, that's crazy.
Exactly, I saw that, and I was like.
Right, so yeah, I mean, and again, regardless, even if everything was in line and you had that one number, you probably would still wanna rebid that package.
Exactly.
Right, so I think that's, we know that that's probably strategy, I guess, if anything, to say tonight it's agreed that it's gonna be reshaped and be rebid.
Yeah.
That would be the only thing that I would say, we would wanna consider.
Yeah.
And I guess we're asking you to reshape it for a $4 million.
And then
Building.
come back with your recommendation on it.
Yeah, based on the bids we opened, we know what the unit prices are now, so.
Yeah.
I hate to do that, but I don't know what else we can do. We're committed to spend that $4 million on our police station to
Don't
get
think
it
there's an
back.
option.
There isn't an option, but.
No, no,
There's some, there's like odds and ends stuff that we could say, yeah, if we do this and do that, but you're still,
you can nickel and dime it, but
the
you
little
need
stuff that
dollars.
we talked about is a couple $100,000 maybe, and that does nothing, so now lopping the detention part of the building might be.
If we moved the building further east, same footprint, does that require additional engineering or design work? In other words, if we do
From-
dry
not-
detention,
Not
we have,
from our standpoint, but from the civil side.
from the civil, yeah, okay, so we move the building east, the connections for water and sewer are still there, the driveways are what they are.
They would just,
Yeah, it's just the soil borings, I don't know if you need additional borings to see if the soil is good further east.
We probably would wanna know that, but you probably don't need to do as many, since you have sort of, you get a profile.
Oh, I guess I missed something, what's the point of moving it east?
If we go dry detention, we need more ground.
Oh, okay.
Cause the dry detention
The
was
dry
gonna
detention.
save us what?
It takes up more land, but it's a lot less digging.
It was saving us how much?
60 when we
I
talked
thought
about
it was like
70?
60,000, yeah,
60 or
70,000.
70,000?
It's not that,
Yeah, so I said, it's a nickel and dime thing.
It's a not.
No, it
yes,
is,
it's-
but-
We're doing a lot of nickels
I
and
mean,
dimes.
60 or 70,000 if you're able to keep the community room for,
Yeah.
finishes the community room out. If you're able to keep it.
Plus the 75,000 for the riprap
Riprap,
stone around the wet pond that you would need. If it was dry, it'd be all grass, so you
which was
wouldn't, you wouldn't need that.
astronomical, 75,000 for riprap.
So now you're talking 145,000.
Right.
Yeah,
I mean, it seems like we gotta just, see where these
Oh, yeah.
large changes lead us, and then hopefully we have a good idea on, I mean, if you can nickel and dime it down on things that are not massive impact, that's not horrible at the end of the day.
and we lopped off 2/3 of that parking lot, and that saved $103,650, because we don't need it. If there's no finished community room, we don't need the parking lot yet. So that's something you do down the road, But,
Yeah, I tried to first focus on pulling back items that you could finish
and save square footage.
and then,
Yeah.
like, maintain the square footage and then just build them out later, right? That was the first pass, but that still didn't get us there. So it's gotta be a little bit more drastic.
Thank you.
All right, so November, the first meeting in November, which is in 3 weeks, you might have something more for us at that time.
I think by that time we'll have a recommendation.
Okay.
A recommendation.
Thank you very much, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you, appreciate your patience on this.
Appreciate it.
I wish it was just ready to go, but unfortunately, a little more time.
Hey, we had the same problems with the Public Works garage, remember we had to do some cutting there too? Remember we did that in '09? We had a depressed area for mechanics bay and everything, we had to cut all that out of there.
Yep.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Good night.
Thank you. And that concludes my report.
All right, Planning, Building and Zoning Committee, trustee Gardner.
Thank you. Planning and Zoning Commission meeting is scheduled for Thursday, October 26th at 7 p.m. In addition to the hearing on the proposed tobacco store at 997 Dixie Highway, there will be a workshop on a cannabis craft grill facility at El Consuelo Ranch on Church Road, which does comply with our special use ordinance pertaining to the cannabis business. The new zoning ordinance steering committee continues to meet, and we have reviewed the first 5 chapters of the new code. The next meeting is scheduled for Thursday, November 9th at 3 p.m. Paul?
Okay, Public Safety Committee, trustee Terry.
Thank you, Mayor. Consider an ordinance amending the police commission to include the appointment and testing of corporals. The corporal position was not referenced in the original code, and since the commission and the chief wish to have the option for testing for corporal, we need to add that to the ordinance. The ordinance actually is enclosed in the packet. There was a few things with speaking with the commissioners. If you look in section 2, underneath where it says examination, it says the commission may conduct the following examinations upon the vacancy occurring in the rank of corporal, sergeant, or lieutenant. An applicant for promotion to sergeant and lieutenant must hold a rank at or above corporal. The police chief, in the police chief's sole discretion, shall appoint corporals. We found that, it has all the stuff that the commission must do the examination and has the grading and stuff on there, but we would like to add, or amend this part of this, on the motion today, but adding where it says appoint corporals based upon the results of the police commission testing. And that's just kind of for clarification purposes. I mean, the chief will go ahead and he's going to appoint that position of the corporal, where it's gonna be at the recommendation of the police commission. And the chief's actually there as a member of the commission, as we had broke it up, and he, he has a seat at the table, so. His input's there as far as when it comes to, putting the results in with the grading. So, I'd like to, consider a motion to,
Number, ordinance 1391.
Can you give me exactly what you said there, Joe, so I can write this down?
so at the end where it says the chief's sole direction shall appoint corporals
Okay.
based upon the results of the police commission testing. Trustee Cross, anything you wanna add on that,
I
or?
would say you need to take out sole discretion, because then you'd have two separate, you could say it's his sole, or the chief's sole discretion, and then you're saying it's the recommendation, so it's gotta be one or the other. If you just take out the police chief shall appoint corporals with then what you want, it still gives the chief the power to appoint. If you leave in sole discretion, is a competing language.
What if that sentence was just removed? Because right now, the way I read this ordinance, if this is the way it's currently worded in our existing code, the chief can appoint corporals at his discretion, and if he chooses to give a test, he could. So if you want to achieve some type of commission recommendation, I would just eliminate that last sentence, but it depends on what you guys want to do.
And I recommended this, and the only reason I recommended it was to add corporals to testing, so we have the option of testing corporals as well. That was the only reason, so the sole discretion of the chief is already in the ordinance, it didn't come from me.
Correct.
So if we eliminate in the police chief's sole discretion and just shall appoint corporals, and what'd you say? Based on the recommendation from the police commission?
Based upon based upon the results of the police commission testing.
Okay, and that's,
Yeah, so the police chief shall appoint corporals based on, blah, blah, blah.
and that gives the chief still the option to appoint who they want,
Gotcha.
but
Okay, so the last sentence will read, the police chief shall appoint corporals based upon the results of the police commission testing. Does that work?
Correct, yes.
Okay.
Okay, so, and that's going to be ordinance number 1391.
As amended. So what will happen if you approve this as amended, I'll call the attorney, have him change that language before the mayor and clerk sign.
Yep.
So then I'd like to consider that ordinance amending the police commission to include the appointment and testing of corporals as amended.
There's a motion on the floor, is there a second?
second.
There's a motion and a second, discussion, roll call.
Giannotti,
Yes.
Terry,
Yes.
Stacy.
Yes.
Gardner,
Yes.
Kraus,
Yes.
Musician.
Yes.
With the administrative adjudication update, talks have resumed between Beecher and Peatone Police Departments about the feasibility of holding a joint adjudication process. The legally, logistics and costs and relative convenience to the residents are all factors that are being reviewed. Chief, would you like to provide an update on
Yeah,
that?
I think the adjudication process would be good for the village. We thought that the software would be free, the clerk's office told us that it would be free, and the vendor told us it's not gonna be free. So, Right now, we have another meeting next month, and the vendor's gonna come, but we may not use this vendor, we may go to another system where we just purchase a software system and run it ourselves without the company, but they give us a general estimate of about $1,500 a month that it would cost. That would be
Per department?
per department, which would be cost prohibitive. I don't think we would enter into that.
Ooh.
So,
Doing the e-ticketing, right?
yes.
That price was with the
So we have e-ticket right now, that's free, the county provides it for free. And and we were told by the county that, that the software, the DACRA software for adjudication came with it. And then, so at the DACRA, and then the clerk called me back and said, no, I guess they're not gonna bring it.
If you go with a different vendor, does that upset the compatibility with the county system?
No.
It won't.
No.
One of the things that Chief and I were talking about doing is instead of writing the local citation would go, and it'd be a handwritten citation, it wouldn't go through the e-ticket. And then what happens is the clerk at the police station would then go ahead and start processing, and then they have the software for the mailings as far as, you know, what the finding, the hearing dates and stuff like that would all be sent out through the police department, not through e-ticket. And then the officer would be issuing the ticket instead of it going through e-ticket.
It would be, you know, the ordinance fines would be much less than the state charge. So right now, quite honestly, if an officer sees a petty offense, they're normally gonna write a warning because they don't wanna write a $167,000 ticket because some headlights out or cracked windshield or no front license plate. But would they write a ticket for a nominal fee? Yes, they probably would for, you know, but not one headlight, because anybody's headlight can go out. Anybody's headlight can go out anytime. That's a warning, but there are a lot of minor violations that the officers write warnings for, and I think they would write tickets if there wasn't so much money. And we get like $2 from each of them $167 tickets. But we would get all the money from this.
Thank you, Chief. As a reminder on our trick or treat safety reminders, we have trick or treat on Tuesday, October 31st from 4 to 7 p.m. and the hot dogs will be provided by the Lions Club at Fairman's Park starting at 5 p.m. I'd also like to consider an economic package to be attached to an IGA for the school district for reimbursement for the SRO program. Staff has proposed a 3-year extension to the current agreement that actually costs for the fiscal year 24-25 and a 4% increase in fiscal year 25-26 and fiscal year 26-27. This will take us through the current police department CBA and into the first year of the new CBA, but we will not know those numbers until we get into 2026. This is a fair accounting of the cost of the program for each entity. If the board concurs with this cost portion, we will share with the school district and we'll be setting up a more formal IGA extension. There's a flow chart in the back.
We can get away with this now because the officer currently in the program is at top scale, or will be this coming fiscal year. So it's a lot easier to figure out your costs when they're at top scale and he's only gonna get a COLA every year. So I think this is a fair for the school district, fair for the village, and hopefully the program will continue.
When's the current,
April.
contract with them? This
April.
upcoming April?
Yeah.
When you guys sit down with them?
So the superintendent is meeting with his board on November 9th, I think.
So their next meeting, they're gonna,
Well, I don't know if they're going, I don't know when their next
That's
meeting.
their personnel committee.
Yeah, it's a personnel committee, so I don't think.
And they wanted to know what it was gonna cost them before they had discussions.
Before, yeah.
I think this is fair.
So we'll consider an economic package. Make a motion on that then?
You can't do it, yeah.
Yeah, so I'll make a motion to consider an economic package to be attached to the IGA for the school district for reimbursement for the SRO program.
There's a motion on the floor, is there a second?
Second.
There's a motion and a second, discussion, roll call?
Musician,
Yes.
Kraus,
Yes.
Gardner,
Yes.
Stacy.
Yes.
Terry,
Yes.
Giannetti,
Yes.
Share that with him ASAP, so he can start getting his side calculated. Yep.
And Chief, is there something else what you wanted to speak
Yes,
about?
I want to talk about Beecher Blessings. We started the police department and the fire department started a charitable organization called Beecher Blessings. We already got our paperwork completed. We still have to submit the 501c3. But basically, it's going to replace Holiday with Heroes. So what we'll be looking for is nominations from anybody that lives within the fire district boundaries and the school district boundaries, but pretty much the same, I think. So, but they gotta be nominated. It could either be an email or a letter sent to Sandy Bukovina from the police department. And she's also our treasurer and volunteered to do that, so that's pretty cool. We expect it to be, successful. What we do is, we'll actually go visit the families that are nominated, and then we'll pick a Saturday in December, and if they have kids, we'll go with Santa to their house with the police and the fire truck and give them the presents. So, the board members will actually go to those that are recommended, actually visit them, see their circumstances, find out exactly what's wrong, because a lot of it's gonna be a major health issue, could be a loss of job with kids around Christmas. It's basically a Christmas-based organization, replacing what we did the last couple of years. We did the same thing in Lockport. It's still thriving right now. It works very well accepted by the community. So I would ask that you spread the word, so because we need to get nominations as soon as possible, because it's coming up very fast.
Thank you, Chief. Mary, that concludes my report.
All right. Public Works Committee, trustee Stacy.
Thank you, Mayor. Penfield, update. We are by no means finished with this project, but the worst of the inconveniences will soon come to an end. We're on target date for November 3rd, completion from the fire station west of the railroad crossing. We will then close Penfield from Maxwell to the bridge to get the piece done prior to the tree lighting ceremony. We are on target. Okay, Indiana Avenue resurfacing, quiet zone implementation. Delineators should be installed and the quest zone reestablished prior to the meeting. If not, explanation will be provided.
Reflectors went in today.
Yeah, I talked to the county engineer today. He gave us the green light, so I'm scheduled with the EMA tentatively for Thursday. Weather doesn't look great, but we're gonna shoot for Thursday morning to try to get those delineators back up. At that point, once they are put up, I have to send pictures to Will County Engineering, which then has to turn them over to Union Pacific Railroad. So even though the delineators are up, it's still gonna take time to get the trains to stop blowing their horns. And with the Penfield Street project, I don't know if they will or not. So,
Yeah, but that piece is closed. We can tell that road is closed, you know.
sometimes they don't. If the delineators are missing, they'll blow their horns. That's part of their. We just have to wait and see. Hopefully, they'll take that into consideration that whole stretch is closed off. But we'll see.
Yeah, I get it. It's the railroad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, 2023 resurfacing program has been completed, all patches were made. Leaf collection program update.
I drove around town this evening before the meeting tonight. It doesn't appear that we still have very many leaves on the ground. They are beginning to fall, but the leaves are definitely starting to turn. I'm gonna stick with our original plan, I think, of starting next week, the week of the 30th, to get our machine out and make our first passes. So it'll be sometime next week, the week of the 30th for that.
Okay, thank you, Matt. Last brush pickup will be Tuesday, October 24th. The chipper will be replaced with a leaf collection machine, so this will be the last one.
That's right. I had Gipple Graphics create signage for us, so that it's plain and simple. Brush has ended. We're gonna put those, I got 15 double-sided signs, we're gonna put them at all 4 entrances and some of the main thoroughfares into some of the more busier subdivisions, Cardinal Creek, Hunter's Drive, Foxhound, Church Road, things like that, to up by Waltz and Dunkin' Donuts and things like that, to try to get the word out that stop putting your brush out,
You have leaf
we are
ones
done.
too, so when leaf is over, you put.
We do, yeah, we had those created as well, so, yeah.
Okay, and that's my report.
Okay. Economic Development Community Relations Committee, trustee session.
Thank you very much. First up, newsletter update. Board was given a rough draft, and it was sent to the printer last week. Should be mailed out this week. Next up, holiday tree lighting ceremony update. So details have been laid out for the parade of lights, the tree lighting, and the other events scheduled in the park. I'll provide a quick update here, just a few notes. Next meeting of the tree lighting committee is going to be Wednesday, November 8th at 7 p.m. Tentative schedule for Sunday, November 26th, when we have the event, will be a 1 p.m. holiday movie at the community hall. There's a 1:30 pop-up Christmas market by Peace Lutheran Church. 4:30 p.m. lineup for the holiday light parade. 5 p.m. parade begins at Travis Fireman's Park with the tree lighting ceremony following, and the event concluding at approximately 7 p.m. Signage for the decorating contest is in the works.
Yeah, I've not seen the signage yet, it was ordered.
Thank you. For that, applications will be due Friday, December 1st, judging over the weekend, and winners announced on Monday, December 4th. The township will be overseeing a toy and food drive at the event. Toys will go to benefit the new Beecher Blessings charity, and food will be divided between local pantries. Two more short ones. Coordination has been ongoing, and local groups, businesses, and organizations are planning to increase holiday decorations along the parade route and in downtown, which will be nice to see. And we were looking into a couple of options for caroling at the event, but so far nothing's panned out just yet. And that's all I have.
We'll be ordering $3,000 of decorations for the park, we got a grant.
I didn't know if I was allowed to say that one
You
yet.
can,
Okay.
but it's a reimbursable grant, so I gotta order this stuff and pay the bills
Yeah.
first. So finance chairman will have to pay those bills before we get our grant money on that one.
Gotcha.
It's not in the budget, but we'll get the money back.
Excellent, thank you, Bob. And finally, Union Electronics Building Project update will be provided at the meeting.
I didn't make it by there today, but the last time I went by, all the electric is in and the silk fence was installed. Whether they started mass grading yet or not, I don't know. I didn't make it over there today.
Thank you very much. Concludes my report.
All right. Any old business to come before the board? Okay, could we have a motion to adjourn into executive session to discuss potential public works employees and a little more information regarding an appointment of village administrator? You can just say so moved.
So moved.
There's a motion on the floor, is there a second?
Second.
There's a motion and a second, roll call.
Benatti,
Yes.
Terry,
Yes.
Stacy.
Yes.
Gardner,
Yes.
Kraus,
Yes.
Succession.
Yes.